History has a pattern, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Weimar Germany in the early 1920s. Zimbabwe in 2008. Venezuela after 2016. Argentina multiple times across decades. Different continents. Different political systems. Different leaders with different ideologies. But the ending is always the same. Wheelbarrows of cash to buy bread. Currency notes with 12 zeros. Life savings evaporating overnight. And in every case, the government's response was identical. Print more money. Faster and faster until the currency became worthless. Here's the mystery. Printing money during a crisis seems obviously destructive. Everyone knows it causes inflation. Yet nations keep doing it. Even as their economies burn, the printing presses run faster. Why? Is it ignorance? Desperation? Or is there something else happening? The answer reveals a trap that has destroyed currencies for centuries. A trap that starts with reasonable decisions and ends in total collapse. Let's go back to where it begins. Nations don't start printing recklessly during good times. The spiral always starts with crisis. Or debts, collapsing tax revenue, corruption draining budgets, economic sanctions, falling commodity prices. The specifics vary, but the result is the same. Government expenses exceed revenue by enormous margins. Soldiers need payment. Pensions are due. Debt obligations mature. Government employees expect salaries. The money isn't there. And leaders face three terrible options. Option 1, default. Refuse to pay debts. This destroys international credibility instantly. Trade stops. Foreign investment vanishes. The country becomes a pariah. Option 2, raise taxes dramatically. But the economy is already struggling. Higher taxes can trigger riots. And in many cases, the tax collection system has broken down. You can't tax what you can't reach. Option 3, print money. Create currency to cover the shortfall. Pay everyone in fresh bills. This third option looks attractive, at least in the short term. It's invisible at first. No immediate pain. No angry crowds. No international humiliation. It buys time. Delays the hard decisions. Lets politicians avoid blame today. So they choose the printing press. Let's look at how this played out in Weimar Germany after World War I. The Treaty of Versailles imposed crushing reparations. 132 billion gold marks owed to the Allied powers. Germany's economy was shattered. Industrial production had collapsed. The population was exhausted. Revenue fell sharply. The Reichsbank faced an impossible situation. Pay the reparations in hard currency or face occupation and further penalties. They couldn't tax enough. The economy couldn't bear it. Default would bring Allied troops deeper into German territory. So in 1921, the printing began. At first, the inflation was moderate. Annoying, but manageable. $1 equaled 60 marks. People noticed prices rising, but life continued mostly as normal. Then something insidious happened. A feedback loop emerged. The printed money caused inflation. Prices rose, but government expenses were fixed in nominal terms. As inflation reduced the real value of tax revenue, the government needed more money to cover the same costs. So they printed more, which caused more inflation, which reduced revenue's purchasing power further, which required even more printing. The cycle fed itself. Each round of printing made the next round necessary. By 1922, $1 equaled 7,000 marks. Government officials watched the numbers climb. They knew it was dangerous, but stopping meant immediate disaster. If they stopped printing, the government couldn't pay soldiers, couldn't cover pensions, couldn't maintain basic services. Riots would erupt. The government would fall. Chaos would spread immediately. If they continued printing, the currency would erode slowly. Maybe something would change. A foreign loan, a diplomatic breakthrough, an economic recovery. Leaders chose the slow collapse, hoping for a miracle. They gambled that external rescue would arrive before the currency died completely. It almost never does. The trap was set, and once inside, escape became nearly impossible. This pattern, impossible choices leading to printing, printing leading to inflation, inflation requiring more printing, repeats across every monetary collapse in history. Understanding this mechanism is the first step to recognizing it before it's too late. The Weimar inflation didn't stay moderate for long. By early 1923, the situation accelerated beyond control. January 1923, $1 equaled 18,000 marks. July 1923, $1 equaled 1 million marks. November 1923, $1 equaled 4.2 trillion marks. The numbers stopped making sense. The currency was dying in real time. Workers demanded payment twice daily, once in the morning, once at lunch, because by evening, the money would buy significantly less. Wives waited at factory gates. When husbands received wages, they ran immediately to stores. Every hour of delay meant higher prices. Restaurants changed menus during meals. The price of soup rose between ordering and eating. A loaf of bread that cost 200 marks in January cost 200 billion marks by November. Middle-class savings accounts, built over decades, became worthless. Retirement funds evaporated. Insurance policies paid out in currency that couldn't buy a postage stamp. The social fabric tore apart. Fast forward 80 years. Zimbabwe in 2008 repeated the pattern almost exactly. It started with land redistribution in 2000. Commercial farms were seized. Agricultural production collapsed. Government revenue fell sharply, but expenses remained. Salaries, pensions, military. The Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe started printing, just to keep the government running. At first, inflation was high but manageable. Then the feedback loop kicked in. By 2008, annual inflation reached 231 million%. The central bank issued $100 trillion notes. They weren't enough to buy groceries. Workers carried bricks of cash to buy basic goods. Currency became wallpaper. Literally, it was cheaper than actual wallpaper. The economy shifted to US dollars and South African rand. The Zimbabwean dollar was abandoned completely in 2009. Venezuela followed the same script starting around 2013. The country had massive oil reserves. It had been wealthy, modern infrastructure, educated population, but corruption and mismanagement drained efficiency. Oil prices fell. Revenue collapsed. Rather than reform or cut spending, the government printed bolivars to maintain programs and payrolls. By 2018, inflation hit 1.3 million% annually. Supermarket shelves emptied. Not because there was no food, because prices changed faster than stores could restock. People fled the country with bags of nearly worthless currency. Over 7 million Venezuelans left. The largest refugee crisis in the Western Hemisphere. As of 2025, the crisis continues. The currency has been reformed multiple times. Each reform fails because the underlying problem, printing to cover deficits, never stops. These collapses follow a pattern, and the social breakdown is always similar. Hyperinflation destroys trust in institutions. If the government lies about currency value, what else are they lying about? People stop using official money. Barter replaces currency. Eggs for medicine. Labor for food. Foreign currency becomes the real money. Black markets dominate. The official economy disappears. Productive activity moves underground. Crime surges. Police salaries become worthless. Officers stop showing up, or they become criminals themselves. Professionals flee. Doctors, engineers, teachers, anyone with skills that translate internationally. Brain drain accelerates collapse. Governments almost never accept responsibility. The pattern here is also predictable. They blame external enemies. Sanctions, speculators, foreign interference, sabotage, price controls are imposed. They create immediate shortages, which the government blames on hoarders and criminals. Capital controls trap citizens' money inside the country. You can't protect yourself by moving wealth abroad. The government prints even more to solve the shortages, which makes everything worse. Authoritarianism typically increases. Desperate governments crack down. Free speech disappears. Opposition is crushed. Eventually, the currency is completely rejected. People refuse to accept it even for small transactions. At this point, government loses the ability to function. The end comes in one of three ways. Currency reform. A new currency launched at a massive exchange rate. Weimar introduced the Rentenmark in 1923. 1 Rentenmark equaled 1 trillion old marks. Adoption of foreign currency. Zimbabwe uses US dollars, South African rand, and several others. Venezuela has partially dollarized. Or regime collapse. The government falls. What replaces it depends on the country. But in every case, the collapse was predictable. The pattern was visible years before the final breakdown. Which raises the crucial question. Can you see it coming in time? Every monetary collapse sends warnings. The pattern is remarkably consistent across centuries and continents. If you know what to watch for, you can recognize the early stages long before hyperinflation arrives. The first warning sign: rapidly growing government deficits with no plan to close them. This isn't temporary crisis spending. It's structural. Year after year, expenses far exceed revenue. Second, declining tax collection. Either the economy is too weak to generate revenue, or the government has lost the ability to collect it. Third, central bank balance sheet expanding faster than economic growth. The bank is creating money to buy government debt. Fourth, currency depreciation accelerating. Not gradual decline. Acceleration. The rate of decline itself increases. Fifth, capital flight. Wealthy citizens and businesses move money out of the country. They sense danger before official statistics confirm it. Sixth, rising velocity of money. People spend cash immediately. Holding currency becomes a loss. This accelerates inflation further. These signs appear in stages: early, middle, late, terminal. Early stage looks like this. Official inflation between 5 and 15%. Government denies there's a structural problem. Blames temporary factors. Middle stage, double-digit inflation becomes persistent. Price controls introduced. Government blames speculators or foreign powers. Late stage, triple-digit inflation. People begin using foreign currency for large purchases. Capital controls implemented. Terminal stage, hyperinflation. Currency substitution is widespread. Official economy collapses. Government struggles to function. This raises an uncomfortable question. Are major economies at risk today? The United States carries debt exceeding $38 trillion. Deficits are normalized. The Federal Reserve expanded its balance sheet dramatically. Does this mean collapse is coming? Not necessarily. And here's why the situation differs from historical collapses. The dollar is the global reserve currency. Foreign central banks and institutions hold dollars for trade and reserves. This creates sustained external demand. The U.S. economy remains highly productive. It generates real wealth. Innovation continues. Institutions still function. Critically, printing hasn't been used to cover all government spending. Tax collection still works. Treasury bonds still sell without the Fed buying all of them. Japan presents another interesting case. Debt exceeds 260% of GDP. The Bank of Japan has printed money for decades. Yet hyperinflation hasn't occurred. Why? Creditors are mostly domestic. Japanese institutions and citizens hold the debt. Social cohesion remains high. The yen still functions. The European Union has high debt members. The European Central Bank buys government bonds. But the shared currency provides discipline. No individual country can print euros unilaterally. The key differences from collapse cases are clear. Collapse happens when productive capacity is destroyed. War, mismanagement, resource depletion, corruption. When institutions break down completely. Tax collection fails. Rule of law disappears. When external debt is denominated in foreign currency. You can't print dollars to pay dollar-denominated debt if you're not the U.S. When political chaos prevents any reform. The government is too weak or too corrupt to fix anything. When international confidence evaporates. No one will hold your currency. No one will lend to you. These factors create the conditions for collapse. The trap becomes inescapable. But here's what never changes. The mechanism itself. Short-term relief versus long-term destruction. Politicians always face this choice during crisis. Human nature chooses delay. Handle today's crisis today. Hope tomorrow solves itself. And once printing starts, stopping becomes nearly impossible. Because stopping causes the immediate disaster you've been avoiding. By the time collapse is obvious to everyone, it's far too late to prevent it. So what does this mean for you? Watch government finances in your country. Monitor deficit trends. Track central bank policies. Diversify currency exposure if warning signs appear. Don't hold all wealth in one currency, especially if that currency shows stress. Hard assets hold value through monetary chaos. Real estate, commodities, productive businesses. These survive currency collapse. Skills matter most. If you can produce value, medical skills, engineering, trades, teaching, you have worth regardless of currency. International mobility is ultimate insurance. The ability to leave if conditions deteriorate protects you and your family. Understand the pattern so you recognize it early. By late stage, options narrow dramatically. History teaches one lesson clearly. No nation has ever printed its way to prosperity. Every hyperinflation ended with currency collapse or dramatic reform. The printing press promises easy solutions but delivers destruction. The temptation is universal. The outcome is predictable. When governments face impossible choices, they choose printing. Understanding why helps you prepare before it's too late. If this helped you see the pattern behind the chaos, hit subscribe. The printing press is the oldest temptation in government. Understanding history shows you when to pay attention. The warnings aren't hidden. They're written in every collapsed currency that came before.